How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Coach, there was a report earlier that said that the Cowboys were very close to finalizing a deal with Osa. Can you provide us with a status update on that?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of ongoing conversations. Obviously, Osa has done a terrific job for us. He's a terrific young player. He does everything right. And as those communications keep going, it's never done till it's done. But he'd be a guy we'd love to have back.
I know you haven't had a lot of time to reflect here, but 1 month as a head coach for the first time in your career, how would you describe what this past 4 weeks have been like for you?
Really busy. You go to sleep at night, you have a pretty good plan of what the next day is going to bring, and you wake up and there's certainly things that you anticipated, but wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, okay, I got to do this. I didn't think about that. So even being in it, David, for 25 years, there's things that pop up that you're just kind of like, wow, I hadn't thought about that. So I'd say the other head coaches have been amazing. They've reached out to me. They've been awesome as sounding boards, but the staffing was probably the most difficult part, but also the most enjoyable part.
Brian, kind of circling back to Osa, but expanding upon that, and speaking with Will McClay, one of the things that he threw out there was that you guys have a ton of alignment between the front office down through you and through your staff. When it comes to free agency, Osa, Jordan Lewis, DeMarcus Lawrence, can you just talk about your part of the process going forward and how that helps shape the roster as you want to look?
Yeah, I think one of the positives of me coming on board was, again, knowing the people. So the communication from the very beginning was very seamless. I think not that we always agree on everything, but there's definitely alignment, and more importantly, we're able to have real conversations, hard conversations sometimes, and I think that helps you kind of, cut through some of the red tape, if you will. There's a lot of discussions that go on this week, which is interesting. But I love the process. I love the meetings with Steven and Jerry and Will, and just having sat through the interviews for the past couple of days, I think, Will and Mitch do a great job of setting the table for us.
Go back to the staff for this. Give a sense. Has it hit you yet that, I got to run this thing now?
It comes and goes. Usually I'm so busy, it pops up at different times, but I'm ready for it. Always have been. Way more ready for it now than I was probably when I was 32 and had some opportunities. But I think the biggest thing for me would be it's way more clear to me now what I want to do, how I want to do it with, a special culture about winning, about doing it with the right type of people.
Get back to the staff, and certainly usually coaches, when they think they're getting a job, they have a mindset of who they want to be on their staff. They got to have that, card in their pocket. How did this come together? You got a lot of mix of young guys, old guys, college guys. How did that come together, and what was the philosophy behind your staff?
It's a great question, Clarence. I think, this is something that I've done for a long time, which means spend the off season, the summer. My wife gets mad at me, but tracking coaches. I literally call guys in the business that I know and that I trust, and I'm like, hey, tell me somebody that maybe you think the world of, but that I've never heard of. And, it's such a close-knit fraternity that guys are happy to share good people with good people. I think there's 3 guys maybe that I've worked with before that weren't carryover guys. When you asked me initially how the staff was going to come together, did I think that would be the case? Probably not. But, again, the guys that came in, I think we found great teachers. We found guys that were incredible people, and I have a real big belief in fundamentals. And so I think if you look at all the coaches that we've added, both young, old, the ability to train fundamentals and the developmental process of our players is critical.
Coach.
And one last thing, I know for a fact our players are going to feel the passion and energy of this staff. This staff is awesome, just in terms of the energy, the way they want to teach, the way they want to be on the grass. So I can't wait to see us get to work here in a couple months.
What drew you to Junior Adams, and how did he get on your radar?
Again, another guy I've been tracking for a while. You can't not see the guys he's developed, going back to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Again, it takes time. It takes a lot of time to do research into these guys, and he's a guy that's come highly recommended, I would say, for the last couple of years. And then when you get in the room with a guy, you see his infectious personality and his ability to teach the particulars of, releases, top of the routes, what I love about Junior, he's able to take a very complicated position and make it simple for the players, which allows those guys to do what? Play fast. And he's going to do a great job, and I'm excited for him. But I know he's really excited about the opportunity to break into the league.
Brian, you've been affiliated with run-heavy offenses going back to the Jets or run-oriented offenses. How do you see that applying next year? And what have you seen from Genty, whether or not you guys take it?
Yeah, I think offensively you try to build it, based on what your guys do well. I got in trouble for letting Russ cook a little bit back in Seattle, but some people got the joke, some people didn't. But no, again, at the end of the day, you have to be able to run the football. I think we've made a commitment that we want to be great on both sides of the line of scrimmage. That's a huge part of it. The way I say it is when teams know that you're going to run the ball, you have to be able to run the ball and conversely stop the run. But again, depending on how the roster's built and how it's constructed, we want to, be able to feature our guys and what they do well, and we want to be multiple. One of the main reasons Matt Eberflus here is, again, the ability to take the football away. That's a big mantra when you talk about, what we want to be is we want to win the turnover battle. We want to own both sides of the line of scrimmage. We want to attack with our playmakers, and then at the end of the day, we want to be a team that plays incredibly hard for one another.
Brian, going back to the
on Genty, yeah, again, just early in the process. Seeing a lot of his highlights late at night from the West Coast.
Going back to the balance on your coaching staff, obviously this is your first NFL combine as a head coach, and you have some, first-time NFL coaches like Connor Riley, but you have those who are experienced as well, Matt Eberflus and some of his staff. What's the process been as far as the acclamation of all of that at this NFL combine?
Well, it's been long days, honestly. We really brought the whole staff up here. We've been doing a lot of football in the morning. Guys get pulled away to do interviews and things like that. But what's been really cool is watching the experienced coaches lean into the younger coaches. And we've actually, even in some of the interviews, we've had some of the quality control guys do some of the interviews. And why would you do that? Well, you do it to develop your younger guys. And so to watch a J.J. Clark, to watch a Ramon Chin-Young go through the interview process and taking these guys through the process, it's great for us as coaches to evaluate them, but also for Will and Mitch and Chris Vaughn to see those guys in that role. Because at some point when we win games and guys begin to move on, those are the guys that we're going to be, promoting from within.
Coach, earlier in the week, Pete Carroll was pretty effusive in his praise for you. What does it mean to receive an endorsement like that, given your history? Incredible.
Pete, was so good to me. 2017, I was coaching the quarterbacks in Indianapolis, and my phone rang, and I actually had Pete's number in my phone from 2001. When I left USC, Pete came in and did not have an opportunity for me to stay there. And I saw it and looked at it, and from the moment I went there, Pete's been incredibly impactful to me. And what do I mean by that? I mean the way he looks at the game, the way he wants people to let their own personalities shine and not kind of put people into a box per se. I think that's one of his greatest strengths, even at his age. His energy, his juice, his passion. Again, it was a hard breakup. It really was. I laugh about the let Russ cook thing. Pete and I truly just agreed to disagree. We set franchise record for most points scored, and we just kind of saw it going different directions. But the guy's a Hall of Fame coach. To do what he did at USC, to do what he did, at Seattle, and what he'll do in Las Vegas, and very powerful for me because here's a guy that talked a lot about when he left. I think it was the Jets, New England. I can't remember, but he took a year off. He literally got a notebook out and he wrote down everything that he believed in. And he challenged me on that from the first day I was there. He said, Schotty, he goes, in a lot of ways, you're a football savant. You've been around the game your whole life. There's things that you've learned along the way that you don't even know you've learned. But what do you really believe in? And I thought that was really, really cool. And he didn't have to do that. Yeah, amazing coach that I truly probably, of all the coaches, including my father, he's the guy I probably model myself the most after.
Brian, when you've walked around here in combines in the past, maybe you could go unnoticed at times by fans and media and things. This week, what has that been like? Have you noticed more people knowing who you are and where you are and where you're going, what you're doing?
Actually, Todd, I haven't gotten out much, to be honest with you. It's been nonstop. There's a lot of work to be done. Again, other than a few autograph seekers, it's been pretty normal. But I would say literally so proud of the staff. I mean, like literally, it feels like we're in season a little bit right now in terms of the hours. We're putting in an offensive system, right, making some adjustments with Clayton and the new guys coming on. Flus has, again, been incredible in terms of what he's trying to do with the new pieces and the new coaches, Aaron Whitecott and guys like that. So I haven't had a whole lot of time. And then, again, this is the time of year where coaches kind of get caught up, if you will, on the whole player acquisition part of it. You're kind of, okay, all right, these are the free agents. Okay, the draft, like we just talked about Genty. Like, I know who he is, but, again, have I studied him? No. We just got the staff done, 10 days ago, and then you dive into the playbook and all that. And so it's been a lot of long hours, and I really haven't had time to say what feels different.
Brian, what about home and had the staff at home and done a lot of that stuff? Why was it important to bring them here?
I think we learned a couple years ago with Mike when I took over as the coordinator that when you stay back and some guys go, things get lost. And so it's just better to move the whole shop. And, again, kudos to Jerry and Steven and being willing to do it. And it's certainly expensive to do it. But you bring everybody up here, and we all got in here on Sunday, and Monday morning was no different than working out of the Star. And we just worked most of the day on football, and we got pulled away to formals. And otherwise, what happens is a guy gets caught on a flight and he's flying and he misses something, and just the attention to detail is not the same. I think we learned that a couple years ago with what we tried to do with Mike.
Brian, real quick, would you mention Mike? Is there anything, though, that he did? Recently, the grades came out from the NFLPA, and he's gotten A's the last 2 years. So obviously the players like things that he's done. Is there anything that he's done that you plan on trying to continue?
Oh, yeah, ton of things. Mike's an incredible coach. I'll put my fingerprint on it for sure, but, Mike's an awesome coach. Mike and Jerry had a lot of hard conversations and ended up not working out, but I will never talk about Mike McCarthy in any way but hold him in the highest regard. He's one of my best friends in football, an amazing coach, an amazing mentor to me, and he'll be back on the sidelines before too long.
Brian, you're a play caller. What are you looking for from your relationship with Clayton, and what do you need from him as the offensive coordinator?
I think it's kind of cool because it's a little bit what I was doing for Mike. Clayton's going to be very impactful for me in putting together the game plan. I think as the head coach, you always think you're going to be able to be in all the different meetings and things like that, and I'll be in most of them, but you're going to get pulled away. There's going to be things that come about that you're like, okay, wasn't in there for that. This guy is just incredible in terms of his foundation of teaching fundamentals, and he's been a kind of a fast riser, if you will. I remember meeting him a couple of years ago. He's coaching the tight ends here in Indy, and just walking away from the conversation before a game and being like, okay, that guy's different. And then to see the success he had in Arizona, he's a guy that I've kind of been tracking and saying, hey, if ever given the opportunity to be a head coach and being the play caller, a guy like this would complement me in some areas that I quite honestly need to be complimented. And I'll be good for him because I did this for the last 2 years with Mike, and so I think we'll work very, very well together.
Brian, we've talked a lot about the running game, and certainly you talked earlier about Genty. What does a Schottenheimer what does a running back look like in your system? Do you have you look for a zone runner in your offensive line? What does a running back and an offensive lineman look like a Brian Schottenheimer system?
Running backs first?
Yes.
You want a guy that's got vision. You want a guy that has contact balance. The fronts that we're seeing, the fronts that we're facing require guys to be able to make hidden yards, whether there's a free safety in the hole or there's a linebacker or a defensive lineman coming off at the point of attack. You got to have a guy that's willing to run through arm tackles. I do believe that you have to have the ability to catch the ball coming out of the backfield. Why do I say that? If a team wants to commit to stopping the run, there's ways that they can try to do that. And we don't want that to take an elite runner or a position like that out of the game. So if a team's doing a nice job stopping the running game, you want to be able to get them involved, throwing it to them. And that doesn't mean they have to play like a receiver, but they have to be able to run routes coming out of the backfield and have the ability to separate and run after the catch is important. Offensive lines, it's different. It's based on whether you're talking about the interior guys, centers, guards are a little bit different. Tackles are a little bit different, but the thing that I'm interested in watching is the development of a couple of the second-year players. You know, you watch Cooper Beebe, Tyler Guyton, those guys. Tyler Guyton's been in the weight room every day. He's working his ass off. And to me, that's really exciting. But I think the influence of Clayton, the influence of Connor Riley, I think that package was so important for us, and I think we hit a home run.
Could you move Cooper back to guard? Is that on the table?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see it. We're always going to play the best five. It'd be hard to move a guy that had that much experience playing center this year at a high level. But anything's on the table depending on playing the best five.
Brian, as head coach, it's not your job to negotiate these contracts, but obviously you'll have a very big role in what the roster looks like and having those conversations with the front office. When they come to you and say, hey, Micah is eligible for an extension, how do you see what he brings to the team and what do you want? What do you say and how do you view him as a part of the team?
Yeah, I talk about what an elite player Micah is. You know, the benefit we have from practicing against him every day is we see the problems that he creates. Special player. And I think that the conversations that Jerry, Steven, Will, and I have had along with the staff have been so open and honest, and that's what gets me excited. It really does. It gets me excited because there's alignment. There's a vision of what we're trying to do, doing it with the right people. Again, we talked about Osa earlier. Mike is an elite young football player that has barely scratched the surface. And so I think the best thing for me is how comfortable we all are at having those conversations about Micah, J. Lou, the direction we want to go from the offensive line to the defensive line. It's not just one position, it's really all of them.
In those honest conversations, do you talk about the timeline with CD missing training camp last year and several others in recent franchise history? Do you talk to them about the value of getting those deals done sooner?
Yeah, I think they understand that. But again, look, the business of the NFL has become so big, and again, it's a two-way street. You know, there's negotiations, and sometimes those negotiations take time. But it's our job to focus on the guys that are there, and again, you know, it's part of the game. It's part of the business.
Brian, you mentioned alignment. Is there a desire from you and the alignment that you do have with the front office to be able to go out and add talent through free agency? Steven talked about being selectively aggressive. What's your take on free agency?
Yeah, I think, you know, as you look at it, you always want to look at your own roster first. You know, so who can we bring back? Who are the guys that we feel like are cornerstones of what we're trying to get done? I believe in this, Nick. I think that there's talent acquisition, which is adding players. Okay, whether they're internal, external, whatever that is, but there's also talent development. And I think that's where we're focused on right now as a staff is, okay, not just guys that are free agents that we want back, but let's take a Tyler Guyton, for example. Let's take a Deron Bland, for example. And what is the plan for them that we came up with as coaches to help them get a little bit better? You know, Jake Ferguson a couple years ago, you know, Lunda Wells had an incredible plan for him, and so Ferg had an incredible second year. So that's kind of where our focus is right now. It's just, okay, each guy, and it's not just, okay, these are the 3 areas that we want to improve on. That's easy. You guys could look at it and say, hey, these are the 3 areas that we need to improve on player X, but it's the plan of action that makes the difference. Okay, well, how do you improve a guy's change of direction, or how do you improve a guy's ability to get off blocks and separate or tackle? And so those are the things that we're currently trying to do along with the playbook to develop our guys in-house.
Going along with that,
head coach in Chicago, has he given you any advice in terms of how to approach your first time as a head coach?
He's been great. He's been an incredible sounding board. Again, competed with him for a long time. Think the world of him. You know, I think you see and you watch the way our defense is going to play, the way they're going to run to the football, the way they're going to tackle. Talked about a little bit the commitment to owning the line of scrimmage. I think that was just an incredible hire for us, and one, quite honestly, that a lot of people were trying to get him, and we were able to get him, which is great for me, not just as a coach, but as a man. You know, we're kind of in the same stage of life. We're about to be empty nesters, my wife and I, and he is an empty nester, so we talk about that quite a bit as well.
In the initial phase of free agency last year, the club only added 2 players in that first stage. Steven indicated you would add more this time around. Would you like to add more in that stage, just as you look at this roster and see where you are in the development of the players on the staff now?
Well, I think, again, it's a tough question, David. I can't answer that. It depends on what players you're talking about. Like I said, we're always going to start with our guys. We know them, right? We've got history with them. We've developed those guys. We understand their strengths, their weaknesses, what they bring to the table from a culture standpoint. So, again, it all depends on how things go. It's a very competitive business. It's a very competitive time of year. There's incredible dialogue going on all day, every day here in Indianapolis. I've learned that. And so I think that's the exciting part about this time of year is you really are competing with these other teams that want to come in and acquire your players. And we're going to make it very tough to let those guys leave.
Brian, you already had a relationship with Zack going into this role, but what kind of conversations have you guys had since you became the head coach, and what type of dialogue do you want to continue throughout the offseason?
Yeah, honestly, it's been more about life. He and I love one another. We care about one another, just like I do all the guys, CD, and excited to get to know more of the defensive guys. I think I've got a great relationship with a bunch of the guys on defense as well. I would say most of my day is spent walking the halls, and getting a feel for the players. Like I talked about, seeing Tyler Guyton down in the weight room, and bumping into Dono in the training room the other day. That's part of changing the culture, and that's part of letting these guys get to know me on a deeper level. But, Dak and I talk about being dads and fatherhood, and there's been a little bit of just, fun talk about scheme. But, at this time of year, we're not focused on that. We're focused on other things, and his rehab being one of them. He's kicking ass. He's doing great, and special man.
Brian, real quick, it's expected that Zack Martin will retire this offseason. Can you just talk about, him as a man, him as a player, and just how the challenge of, the next man up coming up to fill those shoes, to try to fill those shoes?
Yeah, I think special person. I've only been around him for a couple years, but the way he works, the way that he puts his body on the line, the way he goes through the process from Monday through Saturday that people don't realize to go out there and perform at the level that he did. No question that if that does in fact happen, that he'll be in Canton here in the next couple of years. If I don't get an invitation, I'll be pissed. Hell, we might be playing in the game. You never know. But special man, incredible player, but a better person. Really is.
All right, we got to run.
Thank you, guys.